mentor and speaker who teaches people how to be happy and creative this lifetime. At the School of Enchantment, Little Wu offers courses and coaching on how to be a magical human, a person who creates meaningful life filled with passion and imagination. Little Wu will talk about the key to creativity and confidence, especially if you're planning a project that requires participation, funding, or support from the crowd. What a great topic to end the day. Let's give it up for Little Wu. Come on down, Little Wu.
My slides are analog. Oh. Hi, I'm Little Wu, and thank you so much to Lisa for organizing this. Great turnout, and thank you to the tribe for hosting this for us. And of course to all the speakers for your great talks. I've learned a lot today. I'm not a crowdfunding expert, but I love crowds. So I'm going to be talking to you about the art of working with people from the inside out. So in my work, I talk a lot about compassion, imagination, and the ability to celebrate humanity. And that's going to be a theme that's going to run through this talk. But I'm going to start with two questions that I was asked once at a talk. And the first question, so you please raise your hand if you relate to this question. When you were going through school, did you see yourself as a highly creative person? So raise your hands if you felt that about yourself. Okay, great. And the other group of people that I'll ask is, when you're going through school, did you feel that you were a highly intelligent person? People raised their hands twice, and some had different categories. And this question was asked by creativity expert Sir Ken Robinson. How many people are familiar with his work? You might have heard his TED Talk. Do schools kill creativity? And the reason he asked these two questions is because he wanted to see your perception of what creativity versus intelligence was. And with these different ideas of what creativity is, what intelligence is, but he was talking about how creativity is a form of intelligence. So that's a really important thing to think about in your work in the world, because you have many different kinds of creativity at your fingertips. And even if you've never thought of yourself as creative before, it's an important time to really start understanding yourself as a very innovative thinker. And because the definition of creativity is the ability to come up with something new, unique or different, that is meaningful or valuable. And so if you think about that version of creativity, I just want to see a show of hands. How many people feel that they are creative in the traditional art forms, which was mostly in our childhoods, we hear about, oh, she's so creative in the arts, and that's kind of where creativity was the realm of. But if you're thinking about now, okay, traditional art forms, I'll just kind of go through a list. Raise your hands as you hear one that you're connected to, that you have skills in or talents in. Music. You have some creativity in music. There are a few people in the room. Oh, dance. Okay, some dancers in the room. Fine art, so painting, sculpture. Okay, right. What about poetry? Any poets in the room? Writers? Okay. Let's see, what else? Comedy. Any comedians? Great. I have a musician friend who makes a living as a musician, but I swear he spends more time working out punchlines. I always told him that you'd make a really great living if you were a comedian. And he doesn't believe me, but at the beginning of his concerts, he does this monologue that's so hilarious that I just like, oh, I wish he would do a 1-hour special on Netflix. What about creativity in the realm of business or marketing? So please lift your hand if you feel okay. All right. What in engineering or science? Okay, quite a few. What about in physical fitness or health? Health. Okay, great, cool. What about creativity in how you hold your relationships, how you run your relationships, either as a partner or a friend or as a parent? Okay, so I'm just giving you some ideas of all different parts of your life where you are very creative and you may not have ever thought about that because you're coming up with really interesting ways to do things that maybe other people thought of and they're really useful, meaningful, or helpful. And so then one of the secrets to creativity that I've noticed, because I've been doing 20 years of experiments in creativity, I've explored all kinds of different art forms and done work in many, many different fields, and from film to performance art to dance and music. And I've noticed that there's one ingredient that is really important to your ability to create. And it's something that might seem really obvious, but it's not one that most people think of. That ingredient is confidence. And I'll give you a very basic definition of what confidence is. Or maybe actually I'd be curious, can someone give me a definition of confidence?
You think you can.
You think you can. Very great definition of confidence. Anyone else?
To trust.
Trust.
Word for trust.
To work with trust. Okay, great. That's very helpful. Different layers to definitions. One very basic definition is that it's your belief or your feeling that you can rely on something or someone. And that may not be the typical definition that you'd think of, but that was the first one that came up when I looked it up. So it's your belief that you can rely on someone or something. And so if you think about all the different kinds of confidence that you could have, I would break it down into two very major types of confidence. Confidence in yourself as a creator, and then confidence in the crowd, in humanity. And in this very political climate where people are really polarized, there's a lot of crowd hating, right? There's a lot of that. There's my crowd against your crowd. And there's all this polarization that's happening. So a lot of this confidence you have may be on only a small segment of the population. And that could be to your advantage or to your disadvantage. So if you think about the confidence that you've needed to put out some of your past projects or ideas or businesses, I'm going to actually ask you about how many people in the room have a talent, an idea, or a project that you really, really liked yourself, but you never shared it with anybody, or that you only shared it with a few friends verbally and then you never put it out in the world. How many people have something like that in your life? And it maybe haunts you once in a while. It comes back and it's like, oh, I wish I had done that. It's past its time, or I don't feel like doing it anymore. There's all kinds of reasons why we don't do those things. And I won't get into all the different kinds of reasons, but I will ask you right now to think of that same idea. Just kind of go back in your memory and think, which idea did you care about, you didn't share? And was it because you lacked confidence in yourself at the time? Which is natural, it's part of our evolution. Or was it because you actually lacked confidence in others? And that can come in through who you partner with. You couldn't find a business partner you trusted, or you just don't trust people that you collaborate with, or you didn't trust your audience to be interested in what you had to offer. So if you just take a moment to think, was it because I lacked belief in myself? Which could be practical, because maybe you didn't have the skills you needed for that project at the time. Sometimes we are visionaries, we think of the big vision before we're ready, and before we have the talent and skills in place, or resources. Or was it because you didn't really trust in the audience, that they would show up, that they would understand you, that they would support you? So if you could raise your hands, that around that idea, which was it? Was it because you didn't quite feel like you were ready, that you didn't quite have the confidence in yourself? If you raise your hand. Okay, and then was it, if you think about it, that it was lacking confidence in the audience or the buyer, the client in the world. Okay, so kind of, and maybe it was a bit of both? How many people had a bit of both? Okay, all right. So I just kind of want to put that into your toolkit as something that you can think about when you put your projects out, to kind of think about where is the confidence that I need? Is it to develop myself or to develop my view of the audience? And so the first part, quite easy. There's a lot of training, education, workshops in the world that are helping you develop your skills, develop your confidence in yourself, develop your self-esteem. And there's all kinds of workshops on that, from very practical training at an institution to more inner work. Sometimes it's not about the lack of skills, it's about the lack of self-worth. And that's a really big issue. And if you have a business and you have to put your idea out in the world, that's where a lot of self-esteem issues can get in the way. And it doesn't seem like something that entrepreneurs would have to deal with, but it's really a very big factor of your success, is your willingness to put yourself out there constantly, even in the face of failure, or even in the face of hearing crickets for a while. And you have to keep trusting in yourself. So that part, I would invite you to make sure that you put constant investment in yourself to develop your inner strength and confidence in yourself, because that will help you go through a lot of hurdles and keep your faith even when there are crickets for a while. Because sometimes it takes a while for the world to see your vision, but you have to see it first. Now, the second part, how do you develop confidence in other people? Well, doing the self-work helps, because if you feel confident yourself, you tend to radiate that out towards others as well. So any self-loathing that you carry within yourself are things that you might also feel about others. So that's why your inner work is really important to that. But I'm going to give you some specific things that you can do to fall in love with, I'm going to call it fall with humanity. But I'll preface with that this happened to me first. So I know that it's possible, because when I was growing up, I used to call myself the loneliest girl on the planet. And I thought, oh, there's just nobody that could be more lonely than I, because I had very little friends. I was not allowed to go play outside with the other kids, so I was like, really sheltered and locked in. And I was like, okay, so I used my imagination, and I found a way to be friends with myself. But I really felt that loneliness, and I carried it with me, because what happens to you in your childhood becomes internalized and then externalized all around you, and then all you start to do is you start seeing more evidence of the same. So everywhere I went, I was saying, I'm the loneliest girl, so I'd go to a room full of people, and I'd still feel lonely. And even when I had my first real long-term partner, I still felt lonely, and I realized this is deeper than being around people. It's about how I feel about people. And I realized that I had cultivated a mistrust of humanity because of some of the violence in my childhood, and I felt like humans were not safe to be around. They weren't kind, and they weren't generous. And so I had all these ideas in my head, and I kept seeing more of the same. And if you look at the news in your news feed on Facebook or social media, you might see different streams depending on what kind of friends you have. And as you know, the algorithms keep showing you more of what you believe in. And it seals in your view of the world. And so that's kind of how the algorithm of your childhood works too, where you keep seeing more of the same. And so I realized that my thing wasn't that I felt that I was unworthy. I thought I was a good person. I have some skills and I can probably make that work, but what I don't feel safe is living another 50 years on a planet with these other humans. So I really didn't like being in this world because of the rest of humanity. And I was so cynical that I just realized that I can't live this way. And so I contemplated what it would be like to find a painless way to leave the planet. And I never figured it out, and that's why I'm still here today. That's probably one of the reasons. But the other was this sense of enchantment that was in my heart, that I realized that I loved films and certain books and that were created by humans. And I thought, if a human created something this beautiful, and there's these certain movies from my childhood and books that I loved, and I thought, wow, a human created that. There is hope, because it is so beautiful. The vision is so magnificent and so elegant, but that is proof. And so I started to follow that thread, and by following that thread, I started to fall in love with humanity. And once I fell in love, over time, it takes a couple of years for it to really seal in. I finally, in 2005, that was the year I really felt that I really fallen in love. So it's kind of like my anniversary. May 2005 was my anniversary with humanity, where we married because I finally fell in love. And from that point on, I started to see a huge shift in my creativity. And that's what I didn't expect, because I knew one thing in my life was that I wanted to be some kind of creator or artist. And when that hit 2005, my creativity shot through the roof. Suddenly, I was able to launch things very easily. I launched all kinds of performance art projects. I launched my business as a private mentor, and I also launched my School of Enchantment. It was under a different name at the time, but I launched it then. So 12 years later, I can tell you that falling in love with the crowd is a huge component to success. And not success financially, but also with your own joy of doing this work, because you're not doing it just to make a livelihood. You're doing it because you actually want to make a difference in the world, and you want to actually contribute to humanity. And the more that you love your people, the more you're willing to contribute and work through the difficulties to get there. Here are some very specific things that you can practice to fall in love. So first is look for acts of kindness, generosity, and creativity in the world. Keep looking for those. Sometimes you have to look for it, and then it starts to roll in. You start to see it show up more and more. Now I get things sent to me all the time. People will send me incredible news stories of kindness, generosity, and compassion. And so then I can reshare them. And one recent one that I really liked was this composer who created this machine that uses marbles like a pinball machine. You might have seen it, and it makes music, and it's so whimsical and so delightful. And all these people followed him, and they said, "Can you please make a piano version of this?" And all these people are wanting to play the song. So it's like, why would a pinball machine that makes music matter to humanity? It's because we care about these things. We care about beauty, we care about art, we care to feel something. And that song helped a lot of people. I read the thread. People that were going through really dark times found joy in that song and found hope, because they thought, well, if this human exists and is creating something so beautiful, then maybe my creation has a right to exist as well. So it also gives you hope about your project. So that's just one example of something recently that I saw, and I was like, wow, that gives me such faith in humanity and makes me fall in love with all these creators out there. The second thing that you can watch for are people who are really good sports. People who love to join in enthusiastically. Like sometimes I go to watch a crowd event, and there'll be people who start clapping right away when the musician claps. And I used to be kind of like, well, I'm not clapping, I'm too cool to clap. But then now it's like, wow, these people are so enthusiastic. They're just like in it right away. I love that. Or when I ask for volunteers in the room, there's like, boom, and people like, oh, they're such caterers. But now it's like, wow, people are so into things. They're really interested. They're really present. And I really love them. I watch for those people. I watch for those enthusiastic people. Because if you haven't felt that in your life, you need to go and get acquainted with what enthusiasm looks like. Another thing you can do is look for examples of people who are very generous about contributing their time, energy, or money to projects that are not their own. And of course, this topic today, crowdfunding, is one of my favorite places to do that is actually go on a crowdfunding platform and then go through and pick projects. You can do the filters and say projects that are for kids or whatever that you're interested in, and just look at not the idea anymore. That's what most people are focused on. They're focused on the innovator, the person who put the idea out. And wow, great idea, and they got all this funding. But we forget about the generosity that's out there. So when I go through it, I look at it also through the lens of, oh my God, look at all these people that got excited and were so thoughtful and generous and interested. And I have to remember that, because that helps you feel like people do care when you have a project. So when you see all these people caring about all these other projects, it reminds you of humanity's kindness and generosity and interest in things that are not just their own. And of course, sometimes they have something to gain because they have a product or service they're excited to try, but they are resonant with you because it's your product, your service, and you had this idea, it came first in your head, and now it's real in the world. And one of my mottos is like, what do you wish to make real in your lifetime? And then this platform is a very visual tool to help you see how things start as these ideas and how much confidence it took for that person to put it out there, and how much trust and faith in humanity took for them to trust that the audience would come. The next thing is to go look at your own tribe. So when we were talking about, we're at a place called Tribe, and I remember I used to be on a social platform. That was my first social platform, was called tribe.net. I don't know if anybody else was on that. Yeah, okay. And so the finding your tribe and falling in love with your tribe is part of finding them. So if you start small and you start thinking, who do I love? Who are the people that I love most? And when I first started out, I really loved art and artists. So of course I fell in love with all the artists in Vancouver, and I followed their work, and I supported their events, and I volunteered. I really took part in the artist community in Vancouver, and then I was taking part in very sub-genres like the burlesque community, and then the puppeteering community. And so there's these sub-tribes that I really fell in love with, right? So you can think of you're finding a tribe as a process of falling in love with different groups of people. And when you fall in love with them, what do? You hang out with them, and you play with them. Because sometimes we think so much about the word collaborate, work together, and support each other, co-promote, cross-pollinate. There's really technical language, but my process was very, very natural. It was like, oh my God, these people, I love them so much. They're the kids that I wish that I knew when I was little, when I felt so alone. If I'd met kids back then, I wouldn't have felt so alone, because we would have known each other, we would have seen each other. And so it's almost like finding the adult kids of your ideal friends from childhood that you maybe didn't have at the time, or you're just going to amplify the kinds of friendships that you've dreamed of. And so that's how you kind of build your tribe around people that you love, people you respect, and people you admire. And you can start with people that you don't actually know that very, very well. You can start by looking around in your tribe locally and see, like, who's doing this really cool stuff that I really resonate with, that I want to support, and I want to show my gratitude that they exist. And because that's a very big principle, is that even if you're not quite ready to start your project, those who are doing something similar, your gratitude that they're doing it, that they exist, is not, and it's completely the opposite of competition, because it's about going, wow, they're creating a scene. Because I remember when I first started in burlesque, there was not much of a scene, and that word was not much currency, and when we mentioned burlesque, no one really knew what it meant. But now, as more and more dancers were born, and coming into the scene, it created a really great crowd and tribe around that art form. And so then it becomes a lifestyle, right? Because you think about your project, it could be part of a lifestyle. And so you're connecting all these different tribes that share similar values and lifestyle and interests in life. So hanging out with them is really important, and play with them, create memories together, have fun together. And don't forget that, because business can get very, very serious, and you lose the art of celebration, which is the third branch of study that I talk about in my work with people about how to be a magical human. You have to have compassion, so you have to have heart. You have to have an ability to create and express yourself. And then third, you have to know how to celebrate and appreciate people. So those are kind of the three branches. And so when you play with your tribe, you get to know your tribe, and that's the other aspect, is you've got to understand your tribe, your family. Understand your family. What challenges do they face? What are their joys and what are their sorrows? Because when you really understand what's going on for them, then you can tweak your service or product or your business to really serve your tribe, because then you really know what causes them difficulties and also what their dreams are. And so that's about understanding, and you only can understand your tribe if you spend time with them. And so after spending a decade with various tribes, I really understand like what their dreams are and what their pains are, and I can create products or services that really speak to what they really feel. And it's so much about an emotion, right? It's an experience that you're creating. And the final thing, of course, is to serve your tribe with your unique gifts. And so whatever your passions, talents, skills, and ideas are, just bring them and share them. And that's why, kind of coming back full circle, is that as you fall in love with your tribe, then you naturally want to serve, right? Because when you love someone, you want to help them, and you want to be part of their life, and you want to create things that are actually useful to them. And like for me, like lately, the most recent thing that I've been trying is Facebook Live as a way to share guidance online for free to my tribe. And so I've been asking them for questions. Every week I approach a different question. Woohoo Wednesdays on Wednesdays live on Facebook, so if you want to tune in, I talk a lot about how to fall in love with humanity and to overcome the cynicism that is obviously sweeping over a lot of the world right now, and it's going to come to a head. But in that, if you focus on what you love and what you care about, there's another tidal wave that is the opposite, which is about spreading understanding and love. And so finding your tribe to do that is part of your journey as well. And I just looked up on the crowdfunding platform recently, and there's this amazing, it's called, what's it called? We the People, Public Art for 2017 Inauguration. So that crowdfunding campaign was to raise $60,000 so they could create all kinds of art that they plaster all over Seattle. In the newspapers, they're going to buy giant ads of all these different artists that create posters, similar to the style of the Obama art, the Hope campaign, that style. And they're using it to create really beautiful art about gender, racial diversity, all these topics that are kind of on the edge right now, and to kind of quell the rise of hatred. So they're doing this, and they raised $555,000. And so I'm really excited to see what they're going to do on that day, and it's going to continue all this art. So started with a group of artists that really like each other's work, and so it's like when you find your tribe doesn't have to even be very big, but it then ties into a bigger feeling that's in the world. So all these other artists that pitched in, and all these people who may not paint or may not do art that way, are pitching in, and it's incredible that reading the story about that. So like some of the tribes I fall in love with, I've told you some of them, artists, activists, healers, comedians, and the latest group is entrepreneurs, because I took 2 years to study marketing, and I was like, wow, I really appreciate people who do marketing now, because it's so much more complex and multi-layered than I realized. And when you admire someone, then you also fall in love with them as well. Right? So anyone you admire it's a form of love. Respect, it's a form of love. So those are all people you can think about as part of your tribe. People you deeply respect are part of your tribe. And so in my 12 years of working with people in this way, around helping them shift their own beliefs around their own self-worth, and also their love of the audience, love of the crowd, it gives you this confidence that is very real, because it gives you the trust, as Lisa said, the word trust is very big, the trust that project is meaningful, and the trust that the people that need your service, product, or business will find you and they'll get you. Because sometimes we feel like no one's going to understand this, no one's going to support this. But if you trust in them, that will give you the energy, the life force that you need to put yourself there continually, because it's a constant process. And I'm just going to ask if there's this question: has anyone ever had someone that really understood their idea so much that it just kind of made you feel like heard and seen, and then it made a big difference in your ability to move forward with it? So is there any have that experience? Because the opposite is also true, because if you ever had an idea as a child and you decided to tell someone and you were ridiculed, dismissed, ignored, made fun of, then that also has an impact, right? It has the opposite. It makes you shut down. It makes you not share. So in the coming, months and weeks of 2017, I invite you to really focus on doing those things, focusing on falling in love with your audience, with your tribe, with humanity at large. That's the bigger picture, to fall in love with humanity. And that will give you the confidence you need to do your mission in life. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And I have also So I'm offering a half-hour consult as a prize, and it's about kind of determining who your tribe is and kind of really understanding who you want to fall in love with. And
The winner is Carly Bowman.
Carly Bowman. Oh, we're in the front row. Awesome. Thank you. And I guess it's, oh, right.
And then we have 2 more prizes, and we have Sean Kelly and Krista O'Neill who's going to talk a little bit about your journey. Oh, yeah.
So we're running a monthly event called Dream Journeys, which is at the Vancouver Planetarium in Kitsilano. Full dome theater, and it's got amazing visuals. If you've ever done mushrooms, it looks kind of like that. And it's just wild visuals. You get full body chills. They take you like you're flying in a spaceship. And have these sacred geometry patterns. They talk about why the pyramids were built, and how that affects people.
It's really cool.
Really beautiful event. 25 vendors from all around Vancouver sharing amazing food, wellness products, business coaching, stuff like that. So that's our event, and it's done really well. 230 people. It's sold out for 8 months in a row now. So love to see that.
The winner is. Do we have Emily Gray here?
If you don't think the early bird catches the worm, they were both early.
And one last.
So there's one ticket for this show.
Can you repeat the name of the event?
The event is called Dream Journeys, and the next show is January 29th, Sunday. So there's one ticket for you in there, and yeah, it's a 6-hour event, 2-hour show, and 3 hours of vending, networking, socializing, and connecting. So that's where we have built our tribe.
And then Little Woo is going to also hand out postcards if you don't have them already. We already have our next event here at the tribe lined up. It's going to be Thursday night socials. That would be networking. There's going to be Ask an Angel, the one that's actually in this room right now. You can ask questions that startup might be interested in. And then we also have brainstorming session. Going to be myself and Little Woo that will be facilitating that. And that's going to be on February 9 on Thursday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So it'll be here, and I've already posted it on the website, so it's on the card. And last but not least, we have, surprise, we have Daryl Hatton. He's got something for the crowd tonight.
So who in the next 3 months will want to try and raise money with a donations or rewards-based campaign? Put your hand up. Okay, so I'm going to give away 2 free crowdfunding campaigns, meaning payment processing only. You can use our platform to do that. I ask that if your name's called and you didn't put up your hand, you volunteer your card to somebody that you saw put up their hand, so that we let these things happen. Because your comment about community and tribe and falling in love with that community is really, really interesting and important. One of the biggest predictors of success I see in a crowdfunding campaign on a business side is when the entrepreneur talks to me about their customer, not their product. When they fall in love with the idea of, I want to help these people solve this problem, not my widget does this. So, just to apply that. But let's put that into something where you want to try and raise some money for one of your projects, and if you can give us a couple of names.
Okay, do we have Robert Hoff here?
Robert Hoff?
Yeah, I'm here, but I didn't put my hand up, so somebody else can have
somebody
it.
else.
So somebody yell at Robert and say, I want
Robert, you go pick the winner.
Yeah,
All right, there you go.
Amazing. There you go. Okay, it's really fancy, it's my card, and
If somebody wins and they don't use it, the guy Randy here online, he's been on here for 4 hours.
4 hours.
Without
Such dedication.
any of us. It's great. He'd like a chance. So
Okay. So is there Alejandro Di Javolar here?
He's already gone home.
Oh, he's
Yeah,
gone
he's
home.
gone home.
Okay, so I'll pick another person. Do we have Leanne Sutherland?
Leanne Sutherland, hello.
I would love to have it, but if Randy's no, you know, honestly, if he's been online for 4 hours.
Yeah. How about this? Like, do you guys want to maybe coordinate something together or work together in some way? He's an author.
Sure, that would be great.
Okay, so
He's an author, are you an author? You looking to fund a book?
I am looking to fund an educational sort of thing for young women with regards to their sexuality.
Huh? Well, so you know what? I'll give you both one.
Oh.
Okay?
Oh, wow.
Jeff Rusty deserves to be rewarded.
Thank you so much, he says. That's great. So happy. Great. So we'll set it up, okay?
Great, well, thank you very much, guys. There's a lot, what a great day this was. Who loved today? Did you guys love it or love it? And the Little Wounds words, did they touch you in some way? Whoever has been touched a little bit by Little Woo's words in some way, please give her a nice round of applause. Let's hear it. Beautiful words, beautiful person. All right, guys, we have networking at this point, so feel free to hang out. But Odin wants to say a few words. Go ahead, Odin.
Okay, so we have organic snacks and so on, but we're going to be shutting this camera off here, and we're going to ask you guys to come and talk to Tyler. We're going to be doing testimonials.